Hi again. So, we're back for yet another adventure in nutty ass sound designs. I think today I kind of feel like I want to explore some of these effects that I'm not super familiar with. And I think that's one of the good things about sketching is that, you don't have to feel that extra pressure to perform, quote unquote, and you can just sort of be relaxadaisic and try some new things out that you've never tried before. At least that's kind of how I like to approach it. I think many others might want to sketch with more intent, as far as like wanting to produce viable tracks that people will love or songs that will, go well on the album, et cetera, et cetera. Honestly, I think all that undue pressure is just a lot of extra noise mentally, and I am definitely at a point, at least in my career artistically, that I just want to try to get away as far away from that kind of pressure, that kind of thinking as possible. So honestly, the instruments that I'm not super familiar with are tension, collision, and electric, and they are super exhaustive, powerful. We played with a little bit of electric and tension last time, but practice makes perfect. So I think the more we play with these, the more I play with these, the better I'll get. The more ideas I'll have, and the faster I'll be able to iterate on those ideas, knowing kind of what to expect from these instruments. Okay. Why am I not hearing anything? But it looks like sound is coming through. Aha. I guess it helps to turn up, turn up the master volume. Gonna have to remember that one for next time. Reset my template to have master volume at 0 decibels. Cool. And some of the effects that I am not super familiar with, honestly, I think the one that I use the least is this beat repeat. And I honestly, I think I avoided it because it has a certain sound that is overused a whole lot. But I know there are ways to use it that would be, interesting and a little more off the wall and different. Well, one good place to start, anyway, is just to go through the presets, get an idea, kind of a general sense. Honestly, I don't think I've actually ever used the beat repeat in a song that I've made before. And again, I think it comes back to that, when you're creating music, you want to create something that sounds familiar. Because obviously, we don't want to produce art and music in a vacuum. We want people to like it. We want people to get some enjoyment or some kind of, fulfillment out of it, whether it's to get people excited about life or to help people relax, like in my case with all the ambient stuff. And this is, I guess, an effect that, more fits in within the genre of dance oriented or glitch beat, techno, IDM kind of. And I did some techno music early on put out a dancier album with a net label, but quickly realized that that was just not the scene for me. It's not the energy that I could sustain as an artist trying to produce music like that, because I'm a lot more low key on the average, and you know, trying to produce music that's all hype and ego, and you know, it just didn't feel right. So I think I ultimately avoided this effect and a lot of effects to basically you know, kind of keep myself on the straight and narrow, so to speak, to steer away from, you know, wanting to ultimately spend my time making tracks that, you know, didn't feel like they were on the right path or whatever. And, you know, maybe that wasn't really looking at things properly. I mean, I do feel like you want to go for a sound that you really love, that really fits your personality. I mean, because you're going to be spending so much time with the songs, you know, trying to get an album from start to finish. Even an EP or a single can just take a lot of time. So, you know, you got to make sure that that feels just right for you. But, you know, in hindsight, why didn't I spend more time, you know, exploring and trying to make something like the beat repeat actually work? You know, I know it may have been a struggle or a wrestling match trying to get the effect to sort of make sense in the context of what I was doing musically, but I'm pretty sure there was probably a way. And I think it would have come down to you know, more of it using it as a textural device. I really love scrubbing through and thrashing through presets. I really wish for the Ableton effects there was an easier way to switch presets. I know Ableton Live 11 is going to come with a rack preset system, which looks just amazingly awesome, being able to recall those with MIDI. So that's going to really be a huge help. Gosh, I really love some of the sounds coming out of this instrument. Applied acoustics are just some of the best in the business as far as physical modeling go. Seriously. Yeah, let me keep playing with some of these. Doesn't sound like we're getting much out of this instrument though. Yeah, this sounds like the melody that would, you know, if I was going to try to do a techno sounding song. Excuse me. Dusty out here in Denver. There's one thing I hate about living out here, it's allergies, dust. You should record a bunch of sneezes and make a stupid experimental song. Yeah, see? All we need is that clap. You can kind of hear where it goes. I mean, you know, some cheesy house, you know, got to get the vocal moan in there. I mean, it's also so much of that kind of music, and even with ambient also, so derivative. A lot of it kind of sounds the same, you know, and that is just, I think, a part of the big giant conversation that is art, that is music. Everybody's kind of feeding off of everybody, and There's no such thing as like true originality, I think. All ideas stemmed from, you know, brief synthesis of some other idea that somebody else created. I think that for artists or musicians to think that they're original is just a crock of ego shit, personally. But that's just me on my soapbox. Okay, I'll get down for now and get my ego off if it's bullshit soapbox. And that kick is banging, I'm telling you. And as you see me do before, can you leverage this sweet keyboard filter here? Gosh, I wish we had more options with operator. Its noise section is just not, it's not my favorite. It's not terrible, of course, but you know, it definitely, you know that you are just a complete audio nerd when you start deliberating over white noise. Way more snappy. You know, it's kind of got that 606 type style drum machine sound to it. So bad. Oops. Oops-a-daisy. I have to admit, you know, as much as I don't care for certain aspects of dance music, there is a lot of gorgeous, stuff out there still, you know. Even though a lot of it can sound derivative and uninspired and just like copycat from one song to the next, you know, I personally love some of that ambient house or ambient techno. I'm a bit partial. Got our little shaker. Yeah, we could just animate. somebody would probably dance to this. You know, and then there's that part of me that's like, oh, you want to take it further, take it far out into outer space, just, you know, get really nutty with it. I'm still determined to play with yeah, I want to play with some stuff that I am not familiar with. Let's see, what's another one? Honestly, I don't mess with amp too much. It really definitely took things up a notch. Let me go ahead and turn this down a little bit. Just make sure the vocals aren't getting lost. Obviously, you could throw a pad in there, or good old Corvus. Yeah, kind of almost like what Corpus is doing to this. Yeah. Let's just listen to what might... Of course, got to have that, you know, that's my kind of preset right there. Yeah, I'll take it. And I'm curious what happens. Gosh, I wish this tempo went down to 120. So basic. So simple. Most other DAWs let you go way down, which, you know, honestly, when you pitch sounds way, way, way down, and then you know, pull tempos way, way down, you can really get some fascinating stuff happening in the nether regions that exist far out of most average genres. Just my opinion, of course. Yeah, so and I'm curious what, you know, switching up the beat's gonna sound like. I've got this go-to MIDI probability note gate thing I built, and maybe we'll just have a gander. Only 35%. 35% is not going through. I almost feel like I should change this effect so that 100% means 100% of the notes go through and 0 does not. That makes more sense in terms of intuitiveness. And I think a lot of producers, you know, would maybe just have an instrument and not really change it much. I honestly think, you know, you're missing out on a lot of opportunity to make your song breathe with a kind of life of its own. Honestly, I feel like, you know, there's obviously a balance. Too much automation is just, you know, gonna maybe kill it or make things a little too far out. I mean, I guess it just depends on what your comfortability level is as far as, you know, how weird do you want to get? How much do you want to potentially alienate the people, so to speak? And, you know, to me, I don't like to create with that thought in mind of, you know, it's got to be good for whoever, so it'll sell, or so the people will love it and love me, etc., etc. You know, I think it's better to just create without the cloudiness of that kind of thinking, if possible. Or try to come up with like a good, you know, happy medium between both trying to create something that's interesting for people to listen to multiple times, but yet also still has an appeal, like a soul to it. And that's, you know, it takes a lot of experimentation to kind of figure out what that means for you as an artist, or, you know, what you need to, what kind of stuff you need to do, what your tricks and techniques are going to be to, like, it's a lot to process, obviously, but, you know, and this is why I think for the most part becoming, you know, a decent artist is not something that happens overnight. It takes a lot of time and a lot of practice, a lot of sketching, in my opinion, to so yeah, we may have just kind of lost something there with, whoops. Just pitch this on down, boost it up there. I mean, I guess I should be using my keyboard shortcuts here for some of my go-to really easy when you start pitching things down to go into a really kind of deeper, more experimental space. You know, if we were wanting to do like a kind of, I guess, spacier kind of techno, that would be maybe some of the techniques we would play around with in the process of our sketch. I want to hear with this kind of sort of spring reverby kind of effect here. I do like this resonator. Can sound really super obvious in a lot of contexts, but in some contexts, subtle contexts, it can be really yeah, the resonator can be really nice in certain subtle contexts. Let's go ahead and turn these all the way up, or at least one of them. I'll do 50% on the second one. Verb-ish. Cheap tricks, folks. But it's really good to have a lot of cheap tricks in your arsenal to a lot of cheap tricks to pull out of the hat when, you know, sketching or trying to. And that way, you know, you can get your ideas out faster. And once you get a bunch of tricks, and I kind of like to think of some of the times the racks that I make. I'll go ahead and save this one for later use. I like to think of these racks as cheap tricks, but you know, you can stack them and put a bunch in whatever orders you want and rearrange them. Let's try this one here. You know, and I could save this instrument rack too if I wanted to, bring it back up at a different time. Let's play with something else that I'm not super familiar with. Well, obviously the wavetable is one thing I'm definitely not. But it easily goes into that kind of EDM wavetable-y basic type of sound, which I know that's not a good way to look at it. I know there's so many more sounds you can get out of it than those brash EDM types of sounds. Oof, yeah. Let's just play with presets. There's got to be something. Wow. I like this. I think in the last sketch we played with this one in it. Fascinating. Well, let's try, let's play with the wavetable. Let me just try some pads out. Oof. Just not my favorite tone right out the bat there. Definitely a CPU sucker, this one. Well, it looks really cool though. I love this feature. Automating that is, you know, we could definitely probably get this sound some other way. Let's try this one. And yeah. Too much of a party for me, at least for this sketch. Yeah, my CPU is like, nope, not happening today. And then I find myself just immediately reverting back to, let's just play with what's familiar. Kind of defeats the purpose here. Well, we'll throw beat repeat in there in a sec, just to redeem. Good old 7th chords. Can't go wrong in terms of dreamy. Kind of an odd juxtaposition with this beat and this dreamy nonsense. It's interesting how when you're sketching, you know, one new element introduced can inform a whole other slew of ideas. Like for example, I just introduced this smooth pad 7th nonsense, and it made me think, well, this beat, you know, I mean, could use a little something. And I was reminded of a song I was listening to the other day that had this kind of hip hop type groove, but it was an ambient track with like almost like a locked groove type of hip hop sort of tone to it. And then so I thought, well, that would be interesting to try and make a track, you know, like that with whatever is just in my head in terms of you know, what I can remember it sounding like from several days ago listening to it. I think that's an interesting exercise also, to try and listen to a track, you know, memorize some part of it, and then a couple days later try to go in and recreate it. Honestly, I think it's a good exercise to just, you know, throw a whole song on your timeline here and then try to spend time breaking it down, analyzing it, you know, figure out what the tempo is, if there are any time signature changes, what the keys are, if there are any, you know, what the key changes are, and then spend a little bit of time, you know, maybe trying to actually make that song in your own way, or just, you know, word for word. That's actually also, I've done that before, and I've learned so much in the process of literally trying to copycat. They do this technique in painting, and it's called master copy, and a lot of artists are really good at it. And you can basically take something like the Mona Lisa and basically make an exact replica that looks exactly like it, even down to the time-worn you know, erosion in there. So that is a whole school of thought. But honestly, the times I've tried it, honestly, I have learned so much. So it's not the most exciting thing to do, because you're not ending up with something that feels like your own, but you learn so much about different instruments trying to replicate the sounds of other songs, and also you learn to listen to songs in a deeper way, you know, focusing in on certain layers in there. Anyway, Tangentville, that is to say that, well, I've got this idea in my head from the other day, from listening to a track, and I kind of almost want to, like, not kinda, I actually do really want to, yeah, nice tropicalia style. There's one artist in particular who I adore, and I kind of went on a tangent a couple months back of Andrew Pecklar. He has done a lot of this eclectic style. He uses a lot of samples from vinyl, from old tapes, and stuff is just really dreamy and it kind of experimental and hissy. Now that I'm here listening to this for a while, I'm hearing this. This is just way too much reverb, or it just needs less bass in there. We can either just kind of remove the reverb. Ah, that's not where it's coming from. I'm actually here. Coming from over here. And usually the eclectic and tropicalia type styles can be very like lo-fi. You know, they wouldn't have this much glitchiness. Obviously the beat repeat is a super glitched town. It's kind of fun what this grain delay can do. Hearing it, I think this pitch bend is a little repetitive, so what I think we could do is stretch it out a bit more and play with some more. Give ourselves a little more runway. Not enough hiss. Easy way to make some hiss is 2 effects. Vinyl distortion, vocoder. Easy recipe. Super easy recipe. You can shape it down a little bit. Make it a little more, like if you've ever listened to a lot of tapes, then you know you get a good sense of it. Obviously tapes have, you know, more nuance than just this kind of noise. We could throw in some more effects to kind of and automate some stuff. Stick her down to 99. I like odd tempos. Although oftentimes find myself just working with 120, but usually with the ambient stuff, I don't lock to the grid. I'll just kind of, even any rhythms, I don't really, and that's just a personal preference. It wasn't always that way. I think I spent a lot of time sort of going back and forth and finally settling over the years on just, you know, being a little off grid. This is more daring, that's for sure. It takes more balls. Or guts. We can be non-misogynistic with that phrase. Gotta shift the dominant paradigm, folks. But yeah, a little sort of warble on the frequency. Kind of, I noticed this a lot with tapes over the years. I love me some tapes, grew up on tapes, had a lot of fun splicing or recording from one tape to the next, making stupid little mixes with hip hop. Back when I was, geez, 10, 11, maybe younger. Definitely was recording stuff off the radio as early as 5, 6 years old. That was a lot of fun. Okay, so there's this hip hop sound, and I'm not sure if we'll be able to get it from this beat. Let's go ahead and turn off our... I almost wish there was a, and I might try to do this sometime with auto hotkey so that I have to hold down a key and then drag to record it, and then as soon as I let off the key, you know, this gets turned off. I think that would be a sweet little feature, because I constantly forget and leave this on and find myself dragging knobs and recording stuff when I don't want to. So maybe we'll switch up the pattern here. Yeah, the hip hop beat I was hearing on this song was like a kind of, it's like they just recorded a little section. Obviously what I'm doing here is, you know, they would recorded it off of a record or tape or from some other source. You know, I'm using all DSP with operator, so the sound of it is, I think, not as cool as, they had a clack for their snare. It was almost like a wood clav type of sound, which maybe we could pull off with, probably with one of these other instruments. Tension, perhaps. Actually, I'll keep this snare. I'm going to group this and split it up so that I also have my sweet, silly screensaver looking visuals in there. I'm not sure who this artist is who did these visuals. I tend to find a lot of stuff on Vimeo. It's easy to pull videos from Vimeo. There's a lot of great free Creative Commons free stuff on there too. But I think when you're not using stuff, you're not trying to, you know, make money off of any of it, just using it for your own art, I kind of feel like that is okay to pull stuff down off the internet and just recycle it somehow, remix it. You know, I honestly am a big firm believer in remixing. Do we have any percussion type? Maybe tension isn't the way to go. Maybe collision. I'd say the name of collision, just the name of it spells. I'm surprised we don't have like we've got a mallet section here. Bells, we got a Glock, marimba, glass vibes. So we have, maybe I just need to, yeah, xylophone's kind of a wooden. Definitely got a bit more of a wooden kind of. Let me turn this off, and I've got some stuff over here blocking our beat sound, so. Right? No, maybe not. Yeah, that's almost got a kind of wooden clunk. And I kind of want to replace this with noise. Well, I do kind of almost like that little tom. Or no, that's coming from here, isn't it? Yeah, it sometimes can take a while to finagle a certain sound that you hear, you know, when trying to recreate. It's not an easy task, especially if you're trying to recreate sort of acoustic sources with synthy sounds. It can be nearly next to impossible to get something that sounds just like. Acoustic sources will always, in my opinion, be somewhat superior to synths in that they will always have a certain, I guess it's just, they're both superior. They both have pluses and minuses. Acoustic sources will always have a certain originality or certain like nuance, certain. Okay, volume's up 100%. Let's play with the, let's see, we played with the amp. The cabinet is one that I'm not super familiar with. Let's go ahead and put it on the whole thing. Let's try cabinet on there also. I think the cabinet brings a kind of muffly lo-fi. And this one is going off way too often. Something I think to be very conscientious of when writing music. How often are certain sounds firing off, and should they be firing off that often? I'm always asking myself that. I'm always trying to listen for a sound wearing itself out. Like this one, you know, I think sound effects oftentimes make more sense to only happen every now and then. I think there's other things we could do also to kind of make this, the pedal could be nice. Don't really mess with the pedal too much. Just turn this. It's just too tonal. But also, you know, adding the distortion really pushed things up a notch. Maybe less decay. Yeah. I kind of like this in the sense that it's pitched. It's a tuned percussion, which is kind of nice. It doesn't have the same wooden feel to it. Of course, the superiority I think of synths over acoustic sources is you can do a lot more modulation and get a lot more variety. Obviously, you could just record a whole bunch of takes of an acoustic source and cut that up and have a randomizer on a sampler and get a lot of variety that way. This almost just kind of sounds like a drum machine still programmed to I think what we want to do is duplicate this. Oh, luckily we have another keyboard slot right there. I'm going to get like a deeper bass on this second hit. Now that I'm remembering this beat from the other day, it had a lot more bass. But we need to pitch it down. It was like a sub note that happened along in the groove. This might be just too low for the effects we have here. Kind of actually like that cabinet a little bit. Needs some swing, that's for sure. Swang. Let's see. I feel like there was a humanizer that I had pulled in here the other day. Maybe not. Okay, maybe not. See if we can find the humanizer. Humanizer. Oh, helps to spell. Humanizer 1.1. I think that. Let's go ahead and save. I have had crash issues pulling in Maxer Live before. I'm still scarred from Ableton Live 8 and 9 and Maxer Live just being so buggy sometimes. Cool. I still want to play with this snare clack. We'll call it the snack. We'll call this one the sub. Kick. Shaker. Try to add a little noise section. Just a little more decay. And we could drop a delay in there and mess around with some of the timing. Yeah, see, you can get some really odd rhythms when you so I think the best way of doing this one, because obviously when you're dragging it, things can be a little, get lost in the grain, buffer or whatever. So let's maybe play with and we'll keep it to the grid for now. Much as I love to preach about being off grid. And let's just add some extra grit. Sometimes I get these weird ideas like this one. What if we just sort of add our own little random, slow random LFO kind of effect to one of the knobs? Just to add that sort of written variation along and subtle, you know, we don't want anything too extreme, I think, for this particular instance. But it just kind of doing its own thing like that, I think is smooth out these curves a little bit. Simplify envelope. All right. I guess I should have stretched out the automation for that one. No bother. Definitely sounds a little bit like it was made with some old gear. Let's put a little more attack on the sub. And I almost hear it like pitching down a little bit. Pitch is too quick. Obviously, for this style of music, these all these synthy sounds are, you know, not, say, the best sources. It's obviously better to, you know, get yourself some old vinyl, play around with recording some sounds, and, you know, mess around with some loops and grooves off of some old vinyl from the thrift store or wherever. You just get the best sounding, you know, grit and tone that way. But hey, when you don't got vinyl lying around, or you're too lazy to go through that process in the moment, like I am currently, then you know, you can always try to replicate it with synthy sources. Clean. That's boring. I like the default, the blues. I kind of like this grain sound in there, but a little bit louder, because it has a nice rhythm adding effect. I need to hear a little bit more of it, so I'm just gonna feel like this kit got lost a little bit somehow. Maybe it just needs a little more. You could really spend just days and days tweaking your sounds, and sometimes that's good. You know, you got to leave it for a day or two and then come back and then almost like that donk. Let's try putting a little tremolo, a little subtle tremolo. Give it some volume, dynamic modulation. Maybe we'll just try to put one of these on. Definitely this shaker seems a bit incessant. See, did I do that right? Yeah, the shaker also needed just volume adjustment regardless. Okay, so what do we got here? This is our clacky clack. Noise. Also kind of heard some vinyl-y crackles going on in there. Maybe nothing too in your face. Obviously, the vinyl distortion is the first place to look for that kind of nonsense. But it sounds so bad, I think, right out the box. Especially there's like two levels of grit happening. As you turn the density down, it kind of fades between the. I think I like the higher end stuff. Obviously with vinyl you get a lot of bass with a lot of those pops, but maybe we'll just play with it without. We honestly need to isolate just the crackles of just the peak crackles. Let's try, first of all, I need to resave this. Reset with a wet dry as 0. Save as default preset. Cool, so next time we load it in, it's gonna have these settings, yay. Maybe we could push up a little bass. Obviously we want our high to come through, so we'll make the wet dry. I don't know if we'll get any bass considering we have this high pass here. I could do a split, have an EQ that's just the high coming through and then create a separate, yeah, lots of bass there, and then just have if we really want that, just that sort of presence. Just boost this up for a second. Yeah, so we probably don't need both of these. Obviously not as good as a vinyl crackle coming off, and there's usually some kind of hiss, you know, but that's this layer for you. And I think this layer could also use maybe a bit of and perhaps a compressor that is controlled by the crackles. Let's see what that sounds like. It could just sound like some fake ass shit. Well, it's definitely some kind of sculpture. I think I could hear a little bit of echo on this too, even though we've got it kind of monoed out. Maybe yeah, this beat is you know, definitely needs some help. I think the snare is maybe a bit just too consistently the same. Sounds like the same. Oh, this is painful. There we go. Looks like I did add an autopan to it. Yeah, maybe we just need a little less volume overall on that. I didn't quite get the clack out of my head like I was hearing earlier. And that we could probably get that clack if we kept finagling with it's somewhat clacky. Other ways to... Oh, yeah, I mean, it sounds like kind of an 808 clack, or whatever. Definitely more of a snare right there. Too spacey. Just leave it at that. And perhaps try just a little random. Not much, maybe a choice of 3. Make it go up and down. Let's put that here. We've got 2 elements controlling our clack. I wish I could do semitones or increments less than the semitones, but just that clack. I was thinking like a clap generator, which is not easy to generate claps, even with operator. I have not fully mastered that technique yet. Probably maybe an LFO with like a sample and hold rate. Funky. High speed rate. White. Where's that tail coming from? From too much res, maybe? Not exactly the tone I'm looking for. But again, claps are not simple. can't figure out why it's... Wow, the sound seems to have a long tail, but we don't have any release on there. Yeah, it could just be that it's going through a bunch of effects and getting super affected. Well, it's kind of interesting nonetheless. You know, sometimes you end up just kind of settling for something different, and I think it's important to embrace that kind of being okay with change, not being a control freak. That was a piss poor attempt. We just do this. Kind of almost like that loose knit, you know, it's slightly janky, the notes don't line up perfectly. Throw in a bass line at this point, you know, there's a lot of ways to spin it. Could even have a real cheesy lead solo going on with this. Sometimes I'll entertain these really dumb ideas, and just for the sake of making my brain chase an idea out, and just to keep that exercise going. You know, this sounds like this could just be this melodically is like some silly video game, you know, Super Mario Brother Island nonsense. Need is one voice in unison mode. Yeah, some silly organ. Not easy playing melodies on a computer keyboard. You get used to it. I know people that memorize all kinds of chords and are really good at actually, you know, for all intents and purposes, you can bang out some beats. I will say, I do love the arpeggiator for its ability to sort of make your notes stick to the beat in a way, or quantize your notes. So here is me spamming This is me just spamming the kick and snare. I'm just spamming these 3 keys basically, and this arpeggiator locks the sounds coming into it like to the next 1/8, which is super useful if you're wanting to do like a live set and you want to play some beats live. And yeah, this is the way to go, because if you're like me and you really suck and plus if at playing keyboard, and plus if you have a lot of latency, you know, this can just help whatever notes you hit kind of go to the beat. And there's ways to automate this so that you can get a little swing. I think there's also, is there a swing in here? Yeah, you can definitely automate or link the rate up to a knob so that when you and this is me just holding down now. Of course, you can hit this hold button, and whatever keys you were holding when you hit that button will just kind of go. Looks like we do have a swing. That's cool. I think that when you have the swing on, when you're hitting the notes, it's a lot harder to get them to fire. So anyway, arpeggiator. It's an amazing tool for playing live quantized stuff, so you sound a lot better than you really are when you play. And you can always throw a humanizer, you know, after the arpeggiator so that it's not so perfectly to the beat. So it's kind of like a middle ground between perfectly quantized and not. So that was a tangent. Yeah, sometimes eclectic music can just be really cheesy. You know, it's like indicative of that good old time, 40s, 50s, you know, island sounding records that people were was really popular for a while. I think people could really become transported. I mean, you can still become transported with music, but back then it was a big thing, you know. Those locked and stuck in suburban hell could throw on some Hawaiian record and feel, you know, get a little pina colada going in the backyard and kind of pretend with their swimming pool that they're off in an island of paradise. And I honestly love this sort of resynthesis of eclectic and tropicalia music and electronic combination forms these days. So I think that's it. Looks like, let's see, how we doing on time? Looks like we're at, yeah, way over. But that's how it goes when you're sketching, you know. You just sort of stop keeping track of time and just try to have as much fun as you can. So until next time.